All right. Hello, good morning, good evening, and good night. I hope you guys are doing absolutely fantastic because today we have a lot to kind of go through. One video a week, as we mentioned on this channel, so we are going to pack in as much information as I can. So what I want to do in this video is I want to go over my recent kind of buy with YMAX and SPXS, which is a 3 times bear on the S&P 500. What I'm going to do is going to show you how well this position has been performing and if it's been performing like we wanted to in the last video. Of course, I've only had these positions for about a week, so I'm going to talk about exactly what has happened over the past week. I also want to talk about why I do like YMAX so much as opposed to just investing in individual Yieldmax funds, and then we're going to go into payouts and everything like that and what I plan to do in the future. So this is a jam-packed video. I hope you guys do enjoy, and if you do, we're up to 5,089 subscribers, so please do subscribe if you haven't yet done so. I'm going to move this back over. Boom. So recently, if you guys aren't aware, I bought, which I'm going to go here, you could see I bought about 44 shares of YMAX at an average cost basis of $19.59. We're currently down a couple percent on that position, and at the same time, I also bought 25 shares of SPXS at an average price of about $7.87. Currently, we are up on that a little bit. So the whole idea with this portfolio, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you guys that I actually did put in a little bit more money. We started with $1,500. I just deposited about $3,000 more, and I'm currently converting that from Canadian to US dollars, which I can create in another video how I'm converting roughly 3,000 US dollars for only $5, which I can do that another time. But today we're talking about YMAX. So as you can see here from the open PPL, I have about $1 gain from SPXS as the S&P 500 has fallen over the past couple days. And I've only lost about 87 cents in YMAX, as you see here. Now that is fantastic. That's exactly what we want to do with the strategy, and with the previous video that we mentioned, we want to hold our position, our capital in YMAX, and we want to hold it in SPXS. The reason why I hold SPXS is to give us the appreciation from the depreciation of the S&P 500. And I know that might sound confusing, but basically whatever the S&P 500 does, SPXS does 3 times in the opposite direction. So if the S&P 500 goes down 0.16%, you can see here that SPXS is actually up almost 0.75%, so a little more than that. So with that, I do kind of believe Yieldmax will trade alongside the S&P 500. Of course, it's not going to be percent for percent, but I do believe it's going to be close, and that is why I decided to buy SPXS. Now for the strategy, as you can see, our capital has basically kind of stayed the same with these two, which is fantastic. And of course, YMAX pays out some fantastic dividends. And just to kind of go to my overall portfolio, you could see here we're up 0.11%, which obviously nothing crazy, but it's kind of cool to see that it's slowly working out for this current moment. But obviously, we are a long ways away. We got a lot more time and a lot more money to invest to really try out the strategy. Now, in terms of YMAX, I really like YMAX, and YMAX is going to become a staple in this high dividend yielding portfolio. And the reason being is because I find it a lot more stable than a lot of the other Yieldmax funds. When we're looking at YMAX, you could see on the previous day, it was down about 0.05%, a super small marker. Over the past 6 months, it has performed pretty much at a level basis. You could see it's gone up for a period of time, and if we go to the S&P 500 over the past 6 months, you could see here that the S&P 500 has done very well, a lot better in terms of appreciation than YMAX. But the S&P 500 also doesn't pay out 40% in dividends, so that is another drawback. And when you reinvest those dividends, you're earning more money every single month with YMAX. So as the S&P 500 has risen, so has YMAX slightly, very slightly, even though it is, of course, down on its IPO, but it's been paying out great dividends. And it's a lot less up and down than individual Yieldmax ETFs, such as Coney, for example, which was down about 4% the other day. Just to kind of go through a couple, TSOY was up almost 1%. We had JPMO, which was up about 0.17%. SQY up about 0.32%, and finally NVDY down over 3%. So as you can see, there's a varying variety of different kind of ups and downs throughout the day. And YMAX is great because YMAX invests in all of them. It is the Yieldmax universe of funds, if I could bring that up. So it basically invests or has its assets in TSOI, Apple, AMZ, Disney, or DISO, the Yieldmax version, not the actual company, even in YBit, Snowy, SOE, or whatever it's called, NVDY. So YMAX holds all of these different funds, which somewhat makes it diversified in that sense, although they are under Yieldmax, but obviously that accounts for the 40% yield that we do get. But I just wanted to show you guys how it's really kind of playing out currently with the S&P 500. They are staying on track together, which is fantastic. That's exactly what we want to see. And we have our hedge to the downside just to give us that extra kind of boost for our capital to stay the same, and so we can reinvest those dividends. So this was really what I wanted to talk about in this video. Of course, I can show you guys as well. With $1,500 invested into YMAX, I am receiving about roughly $32 American. So that's about $45 Canadian from this investment. Of course, I'm going to be adding to this position over time. I have a lot more money invested, about 3,000 more to put in, and I will kind of decide the varying rates depending on what I see for the future for the S&P 500, whether I will go a little bit heavier on SPXS or I will go heavier on YMAX. Now, to kind of talk a little bit about the future here, I just want to bring that back. What do I see for the S&P 500? Well, if we look over the past 6 months and even the past year, it's been in a straight upward trend. Do I think this is going to potentially reverse? I'm not sure. And really, I don't think it's going to reverse. I think it's going to continue to trend up, which is going to work in YMAX's favor, which I'm going to bring up right now, of course. So as the S&P 500 rises, so should YMAX, because a lot of the underlying stocks, which the underlying stock is Coney, but the underlying stock of Coney is Coinbase. When we look at Coinbase, Tesla, we look at JPMO, huge big companies in the market, and even Square, these are all relatively huge companies. Nvidia, $1 trillion market cap. So these are all fantastic companies that should hopefully grow over time, which are the underlying ETFs of YMAX. So that is why I want to hold so much YMAX, for the dividend yield, for the potential safety that it offers, and the potential diversification that it offers, along with the fact that it seems to trend closely with the S&P 500 and pays out a 40% dividend, which we could then take our dividends and reinvest into more shares. So this is the whole basis beyond this portfolio. Obviously, the last video, what we did was we did kind of a little test to see how SPXS would perform at different levels of losses, and it performed well in those tests, but of course we have to put it to the real life test, and that is going to be what makes the difference. So we will find out if the strategy works or not in the future. So just to kind of recap, this was a video on my position in YMAX and SPXS, just a little update as to how the position's going, currently working out, currently slightly up on the position, and it's holding the main capital base, which is exactly what we want to see. So as well, just a little update as to why I hold YMAX, because it is diversified across many different large cap Yieldmax ETFs that I do think are going to perform well over time. And of course, I don't want to invest in the individual ones because I feel like it's a little bit too risky, but holding, for example, YMAX is holding all those Yieldmax ETFs. So that is what I intend to do, and I will intend to grow this position and keep you guys updated with that. So if you guys did enjoy, we're up to 5,089 subscribers. Let's get to 5,100 if that's even possible. I want to say thank you to everyone who has subscribed. Shout out to you guys in the community, and I want to say I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it served you well. Just a little update, and I hope to see you guys in the next video.